Cheers, CC. Welcome back. Contest response this time. Hope everybody's been doing well. This is a response I'd like to do to a contest for MGK Boston, more specifically Mike and Patio in the contest video, who I believe are now, and maybe he's going to change the channel name, MGK Buffalo. They've recently moved from Boston to Buffalo. But anyways, hosting a contest to get a push to 1 trillion subscribers, and I think we can get them there. All joking aside, I think he's got around, I looked earlier today, 800 and some odd. So ultimately, he really is just on the verge of 1,000 subscribers. Mike's got a great channel, and I'm really surprised that hasn't surpassed the 1,000 mark already. But I think we can do 1,000 for him and beyond. So there's 10 questions to this. I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability. So let's get started here. Question number 1, vacation. Where do you like to go? And if you haven't been there, where would you like to go? So my wife and I really aren't vacationers. We did a lot of stuff at sports with our kids growing up, and we weren't really travelers. Now that the kids are grown up and gone, we're looking to do some more traveling. Been to Mexico a couple of times, Dominican Republic, and then just the odd kind of trip here and there. We went to Memphis 2 years ago. I had to visit Graceland, was finally able to get there. But where, more importantly, I guess for this question for me, where would I like to go? I'm not really a big sun and sand person, so we've done that a few times. I'd really love to visit a lot of historic countries. Europe is a big one. Of the countries in Europe, I'd really love to get to the United Kingdom. Germany's a really big one. My dad's side of the family is originally Dutch, so I'd love to visit the Netherlands one day. But there's one country for its uniqueness that I've always just had a fascination with, and I just love to get there. I don't think I ever will, but and that is Egypt. And I'll just show you this record here called Ancient Egypt, and this is a record by Ali Jihad Raisi. Originally, when this album was recorded, it was to be a dedication musical piece in 1978 to an Egypt, I guess, display that they had in a Seattle museum. And this was music that was composed and performed for that exhibit. And it was so great, actually put it on a record. Ali Jihad Raisi, I believe he's still alive in his early 80s. Lebanese-born American citizen who's a composer and performer. This is a beautiful album, ambient, very cultural with Egyptian music and instrumentation, that sort of thing. Absolutely love this album. Egypt. Question number 2 and 3, they kind of go together. And by the way, the questions that I have here, I'm taking from what was posted in the description of the video, as opposed to how they were actually posed in the video itself. But question number 2 is name a solo artist that everybody seems to love that you can't stand. And question number 3 was name a band that everyone seems to love but you can't stand. And I believe in the video he said basically pick one, or you can do both. I'm going to do a band because in terms of an artist you can't stand, it's not the music that I can't stand. It's really more their political side, and that is Roger Waters. But it's like, I love Floyd, I love Roger Waters' solo stuff. I don't love it. I enjoy it. I saw Roger about 6-7 years ago, and what was a real turnoff for me is, and I know Roger was like this and always has been, you've got a British performer performing in Canada complaining about American politics for 2 hours, and it's just, play the damn music, right? I know others are going to agree and agree with him and disagree with me, and that's fine. But I really didn't want to show anything and really go on. I wanted to really focus more on the band. I don't have any LPs or CDs for this particular band. I have a cassette, and this is the only cassette that I've ever had. And I think I even bought it when it came out. And that is Bon Jovi. I can't get into Bon Jovi. I never have. It's just soft rock that's just, there's nothing to it. It's almost just like it's curated for radio, and it's just not for me. If you love them, good on you, but I've never been able to get into Bon Jovi. Can't stand them. So question number 4 then, we're jumping along, is show a jazz album. And I think I've got a couple just out of place here. So the jazz album that I'm going with is Randy Weston. This is Blue Moses. And it's a CTI release. And I just made a note because the amount of top-notch musicians on this album are just fantastic. Among others, they include Ron Carter, Hubert Laws, Billy Cobham, Frank Hubbard, and also George Washington Jr. I mean, they all play on this. Pretty cool cover too. That's Randy Weston, Blue Moses on CTI. Pretty cool album. Question number 4 is show a country and western album. Sure. Not a huge country fan. My mom growing up was a country fan. I had an uncle close to me who had always said when I was growing up, there are only 2 kinds of music, country and western. But both my maternal grandparents always listened to country music, hence is the reason why my mom grew up. But I picked this particular artist because this guy always reminds me of my grandmother, and that is George Jones, and this is Mr. Country and Western Music. And that's on Columbia Records. 2-eye, not original. I believe the original was on a 6-eye Columbia. But yeah, I have actually probably half a dozen George Jones albums, if you like to go back to classic country. So this is Mr. Country and Western Music. Next is question number 6. Who is your favorite sports team or athlete of all time? I've never really had a favorite athlete. Now I enjoy and marvel in some of the all-time greats. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, those sorts of people. Growing up, they were always fun to watch because they just had such an immense talent. I'm going with the team. I've always been a Philadelphia Eagles fan for football, but I would say I'm an even bigger Toronto Maple Leaf fan. Grew up a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. My same grandfather that was a country and western fan, he was a diehard Leafs fan, and my brother and I growing up, we were always over there watching the Leafs, and that just stuck with me. So I'm probably a bigger Leaf fan than I am an Eagles fan, but I love them both. So go Leafs, go. Next question is share a concert memory. Now, I used to go to a lot of concerts. Haven't been to concerts in some time. I maybe average one every year or two, like just not at all. But I've never really had a cool concert experience or story really to share. If you want cool concerts and stories, go visit Bobby Gass's channel. I mean, not only the people that you've seen, but the stories that accompany those shows is just incredible. I have nothing like that to share. I can share a couple of quick things. I remember my second concert, maybe third concert of all time, was Van Halen, and I saw them in Toronto. Alice in Chains opened up, and people didn't really know who they were. Lane, of course, was still with the band, so I was able to see Alice in Chains with Lane. But half of the crowd booed Alice in Chains almost off the stage. Like it was incredible, and I still remember that to this day. And just to think that how many of those people would be doing that, you know, 20 years on. So that was quite odd, but happy to have seen Alice in Chains. And it was the only time that I ever saw them. As far as great openers go, in '93, I saw Neil in Toronto, which is always a great place to see Neil. It's where he's from. And a homecoming for Neil, he always puts on a fantastic show when he's in Toronto. But that particular show, I believe it was August of 1993, 3 fantastic openers. In order: Blues Traveler, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and then Neil. Like, pff, what a great show that was. Question number 8 is shout out to a newer Vinyl Community channel. This particular channel I just discovered actually in the last week or so, and I've been catching up on his videos. It's amazing because when you watch him, he's so relaxed and so outgoing and comfortable in his videos. You would think that he's been doing this forever, but I think he's only got 62 subscribers or something like that. I was watching earlier today, and the name of the channel is Wax and Relax, and that's John. John's got a great channel. I'll post details to it in the description below, so jump over and say hi. I'm sure you'll enjoy his channel. Question number 9. Show an album by a Canadian artist. So I'm going to go with a band called The Plastic Cloud. The band formed in 1967, and they're from, what was the name of the town? It's a little town. It's just basically outside of Pickering, Ontario, which is probably 20 minutes or half an hour east of Toronto. So they're only about an hour and a half from here. Town now called what they say is what's now Pickering. But so they're Southern Ontario boys. They got together in 1967. They released their one and only album, which is a self-titled album, just called The Plastic Cloud, in 1968. And they were one and out. This was the only thing that they ever did. And originally released on Allied Records. This is a 2020 reissue on Lion Productions, and they only pressed 500 copies, and they replicated the original Allied Records label, which is always pretty cool. But this is fantastic psychedelic garage rock. Southern Ontario Canadian band. And that takes us to the last question, which is happy birthday. Show an album that was released the year you were born. So I'll do one step above that, and I'll show a record that was released on the day that I was born. And if you go back maybe a year or so in my videos, I did a birthday type video where I show some albums that were released on my birthday and the week of my birthday. But of all the records that I showed, this is probably my favorite because it's just such a fantastic album, and that is Billy Cobham's Spectrum. 1973 this was released. If you're not familiar with this album, I would highly recommend it. This is, I think this is a late 70s Atlantic reissue, but just a fantastic album. Billy Cobham, Spectrum. I won't tell you the date. You can look it up if you want, but 1973. Okay, so there you go, Mike and Patty. All the best to 1 trillion. Again, more realistically, 1,000 I think is just on the horizon. You guys got a great channel. Folks, I'm going to link their channel below. I believe Mike has set the closing date for the contest as Valentine's Day, so you got lots of time to get in there. I mean, you can't just give a few weeks for 1 trillion people, right? So anyways, all the best. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and I hope you all have a great evening. And until next time, bye for now.